Hey teachers, so as promised, here is the hopefully short, video about the curriculum. This is probably the third time that I've made this video, just for different reasons, whether difficulty seeing what I'm talking about or whether I just did audio trying to put it in pictures that I've made this video. So I'm just going to put this out. Hopefully you'll be able to understand and see everything I can. I know it's not turning out quite like I wanted to, but that's the reason that it's taken so long. So first, what I want you to go ahead and do is look at page 20, which would be session 9, which is this week's lesson on Jesus and the temple. I'll walk you through a few things, hopefully answer some questions for you. Let's go ahead and get started. So page 20, lesson 9, or session 9, says Jesus at the temple. At the top, it gives us teaching theme, biblical text, memory verse. All those things are pretty self-explanatory. And then it gives level of biblical learning. So on there, you'll see babies, 1s and 2s, Jesus grew like me, 3s and 4s, Jesus grew and had a family. So every week, that's going to be your main teaching point, kind of the point that you want to drive home. I know for 3s, 2s, you could probably drive home a secondary teaching point as well. But there's one truth that we want to focus on every single week, and that's where you're going to find at that level of biblical learning for your class. Now, the rest of it goes all the way through the adults with big idea and purpose. You don't have to worry about that. Specifically, we're focusing on babies, 1s, 2s, 3s, and then, well, I guess 4s as well, because some of these children are turning 4. Go ahead and turn over to page 21. And I think this is probably the thing I needed to address most, and I completely understand how it could be confusing. But if you look all the way to where it says Bible Story Study Time on page 21, it says introduce the unit, and that's just a little blurb about what to your children about what the lesson is like today, and it says tell the Bible story, and it has a passage, and then underneath that it says teach the Bible story. So essentially what that is, and I feel like I agree that it should have been labeled a little bit better, and we will actually going to change that as the year goes on. We've already produced through May, so hopefully that will be changed for June. But when it says tell the Bible story, that's just the passage for the week. This one is actually pretty short. It's only 9 verses. But then you have some weeks where it's a whole page worth of text. We do not expect you to read all of that to the children every single week at this age. We do expect, however, you to read the passage yourself so that you're familiar with the story and the details of it. I know for me, I've been in church most, if not all of my life. And I can say, I know the story of Jesus of going to the temple, and I can be tempted not to read the text. We want you to read the text. We want you to be familiar with the details. I don't want everybody just running off of memory, even if you've heard it a million times before. We don't want you running off of memory teaching these children, because then your memory becomes their initial entrance or introduction to the story. And we really want that from the Bible, because we're all fallible. We could all either leave things out or add things in that really aren't in the story. So we want it coming from the text. We want you to read the text yourself before Sunday, be familiar with it for when you teach it. If you want to, what would probably enhance your teaching would be to pick out 1 or 2 of the verses that really have to go with our level of biblical learning, or that do you think really enhance the story? And maybe you do read those to the class. Maybe you specifically bring those out and say, and God said such and such and such and such. That would enhance your biblical learning, or your biblical teaching. But right underneath, tell the Bible story, it is teach the Bible story. And so what you'll see are phrases related to the biblical text, or what I have done. I actually, interestingly enough, did not write these for session 9, so can't blame me if you don't like them for session 9. But I've written for every other one. So what that is, where it says teach the Bible story, I know you can't see that well. That's why I've made multiple videos. Where it says teach the Bible story, that's a bulleted summary of the lesson for the week. And this is the same thing that's on the back of your teaching picture. So it's made for you to be able to hold up your teaching picture and teach a bulleted summary of what the lesson is about. And again, we want you to read the full text. Maybe there's something in the text that you want to add into the story, maybe that you think is really important. That's perfectly fine. You guys are teachers. We trust you to do that. If you're teaching the Bible, that's fine. But that teach the Bible story is a bulleted summary, and then usually I'm making the last one the level of biblical learning for the day. So for instance, this one should be Jesus grew and had a family, or Jesus grew like me. And the last one here is Jesus grew like us. So whoever did this one is a little bit different. Jesus traveled with his family, Jesus loved with his family, Mary and Joseph, Jesus' parents, cared for Jesus. This is not exactly what I've done on other lessons, but for the most part, that teach the Bible story should be a bulleted summary of what the lesson is. So to kind of encapsulate what I just said in the past 2 minutes, we don't expect you to read the entire Tell the Bible Story section of the text. If you feel like you want to read a few of the verses, that is perfectly fine. In fact, I believe it would make your teaching even better. But we don't expect you to read this entire page of biblical text on Sunday morning to your children. Half of them will probably fall asleep or pick their nose or go start something else, play with something else while you do that. We do expect you to read it yourself, learn the Bible story, and then using the bulleted summary, be able to go through the lesson for the Sunday. One more thing before I let you go. I know this has been a long video. On the very last page, so this is page 22 of session 9, or page 22, it says show the teaching picture, which that's pretty self-explanatory. The memory verse, pray and give thanks for God's creation. And it says teaching options 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is designed for you, the teacher, to look at this lesson before Sunday, to see those teaching options, and say, hey, I want to use teaching option 1, or I want to use teaching option 2, or I want to use maybe all 4 of them. So you decide what works best for your class and which ones you're going to implement on Sunday morning. It may be that you decide I'm going to use 1, 2, and 3. I'm not going to use 4. Or you're going to use 4 and not use 1, 2, and 3. Or maybe you've got a great idea for a craft or a song or an activity, something like that goes along with the lesson that we just didn't think of. You're more than welcome to put that into your lesson. In fact, we want you to do that because we want you to make it your own. But this is not designed, this part specifically about teaching option 1, 2, 3, and 4, it's not designed for you to go through the rest and then you just say, okay, where's my stuff for teaching option 1, or to come at this confused and not have already looked at it, or to try to do all of these at the end of the class. In fact, if you look at them beforehand, some of them are specifically designed to do at the beginning of a class to relate to the lesson and kind of introduce the lesson first. So maybe that's asking a lot, but I think honestly, if you were to take 5 to 10 minutes each week, and maybe that's a lot, 5 to 10 minutes each week, read through the lesson, you'll be familiar with the biblical text, you'll be prepared to teach the Bible story, and you'll be able to know, hey, I want to teach options 1 and 2. We're going to use activities 1 and 2, maybe not 3 and 4. You'll be ready on Sunday to teach the lesson and to go through the entire hour and a half with your kids prepared. I love you guys. You guys doing an amazing job. I hope that I answered some questions for each one of you. In fact, 99.99% of you are better teachers than I will ever be. But just a few questions, answers that we've heard. Hopefully we got those answers for you. I love you guys. Praying for you. Thank you for all that you do.